Hey everyone, this is Hurricane Alan in Delcambre, Louisiana. The morning after the landfall of Hurricane Delta. Just wanted to give a recap on the storm and let you know what I'm seeing here on the ground. So Delta made landfall as a Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale with maximum winds around 100 miles an hour. Right around Creole, Louisiana, that's just east of Cameron. And this is pretty much the same location where Hurricane Laura made landfall 6 weeks earlier as a Category 4 hurricane. So we had two hurricanes within about 6 weeks making landfall in the same location. That's pretty rare. The last time I can remember that happening was in 2004 when Hurricanes Francis and Jean both made landfall just south of Jupiter, Florida. So that's unfortunate because a lot of people were just still cleaning up from Hurricane Laura back in August. There were still piles of debris like limbs and tree branches and parts of people's roofs and things like that. People had done all they could to just put a blue tarp on their roof and to get the debris cleaned out and put out by the curb, and then here comes a second storm. So I'm going to be on the ground today doing some surveillance and letting you know what I see. Let me turn the camera here so you can see what I'm seeing here in Delcambre. The water's still high. The general consensus as I've talked to people in town is that the winds with Delta over here were actually worse than they were with Laura, but the storm surge was not quite as high. But the surge was coming in pretty good yesterday afternoon and evening. It was coming in about 5 to 6 inches an hour. You can still, the water has gone down and receded somewhat, but it's still up over the roads and towards people's houses and under a lot of houses as well. I did see some trees down. Trying to drive out of town last night, there was really no way to do it. There was a tree down on the main road going up towards Lafayette, and so really just stayed here in town. I have my little storm chasing capsule. I'm self-sufficient for many days if I need to be. Again, I'm here in Delcambre, Louisiana. Wanted to talk about this storm as well on the western periphery. The western side of the storm was more extensive than previously forecast, and then the other and bigger than the other storms as well this year. I know our friends out in, for example, the Galveston area. Galveston took sustained winds of 46 with gusts to 58 at the airport. That's the strongest of any of the three tropical systems that affected Galveston and Bolivar this year. And so there were some pretty extensive power outages there in the upper Texas coast. I know even our friends in Orange and Beaumont and Port Arthur took a lot of wind. It seems like the wind was stronger with this storm than the previous storms, but the storm surge a little bit lower. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I was trying to give the best live coverage I can. I try to document the storm the best I can, but I never want to throw a wake really on a house that's not elevated. So I always try to be really careful when I'm driving around in the storm, and be careful of that if you're driving through floodwater, both for your own safety, but you never want to throw a wake at a building that is not elevated. You can put more water into that building than previously was. I did see some trees down. The winds here were really cooking here yesterday, late afternoon and evening, right around dark. They were moving pretty strong. So I'm here in Delcambre, Louisiana. The water's coming down today. The good news is we're looking at a lot of sunshine for the upper Texas coast and South Louisiana over the weekend and into next week. So it'll give people time to recover. I'm going to be driving around, and what I really want to find out today is, how are people doing? What do they need? And what are some ways that we can meet those needs? I know a lot of my friends said, man, I feel terrible for these people. I wish there was some way to help. That's one thing I want to do today. I want to try to figure out, how can we help? What do these people need? And how can we meet those needs? I'm going to be on the ground just talking to a lot of people today, talking to churches, talking to nonprofits, and just trying to figure out, what do these people need? They got back-to-back hurricanes, and how can we help them? So those are some questions I'm going to be answering. I'm also going to go down to the tide gauge that we installed yesterday. We were monitoring the water levels, which were rising in the morning about 1 inch an hour. Then early afternoon, it was 2 inches an hour. And then by late afternoon, it was getting up to about 4 inches an hour. And then I had to abandon the gauge there because the water was just getting too deep. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here along the Gulf Coast in South Louisiana. We're hoping for a quick recovery here, and I'm going to be in touch, getting to know people, hearing their stories, finding out about the impacts of these two storms here. We had Laura and Delta back to back in just 6 weeks, finding out how we can help them. And I'll be doing some more broadcasts here from the scene in Southwest Louisiana. My heart goes out to my friends in Upper Texas coast as well. I live in Galveston, and I'll be back there tomorrow evening. And I know there were some impacts there as well, so I hope everyone has a quick recovery from the storm. A lot of these storms, in different locations could have been worse, really. I was really noticed with Tropical Storm Beta, it kind of dissipated before landfall. And then Laura, as bad as it was, it really shifted away from the big population center, and the worst impacts were in a more rural area. So the season actually could have been worse than it was, but it's an active season and we're all ready for it to wind down. This is Hurricane Hal signing off from Delcambre, Louisiana.